And welcome back to another video here in the Off-Grid Garage, guys. This will be a late night show, as you can see. Well, I have to talk about a topic we have discussed earlier in one of my videos. In fact, I've got over 160 comments on this video now, and the majority of these comments are about the compressing or not compressing of these lithium iron phosphate cells. So we are talking about the EV LF280. And just for the record, some people always have said to me, you have to compress these cells, and I didn't even know what they are talking about. Because the company in China who sent me these batteries sent me the spreadsheet, and there's nothing mentioned of any compression of these battery cells at all. Nothing. Zero. Nada. I didn't know what they are talking about. And only today, one of my viewers, Captain Denmark, well, if you don't know, this is something like Captain America, just for another country. No, I'm not saying anything negative here about Denmark, you know. I've been there myself quite a few times for holidays. Beautiful country, beautiful people, very nice. If you haven't been there, you have to go. Anyway, he pointed me in the right direction and posted a link to the new spreadsheet for these EVE 280 ampere hour battery cells. And I don't want to do a comprehensive comparison here between these two spreadsheets now, but let me just show you the most important things I have found so far. And honestly, I did not know there is a newer version of the spreadsheet for these battery cells. I was always wondering what people are talking about when they say you need to read the instructions, the manual, the specs of these battery cells and compress them to get a better cycle life. And I always said, well, it doesn't mention anything in my specs, so you must have different batteries then. No, these guys were perfectly right. I just didn't have the updated spreadsheet until today. Okay, let me just show you the most important differences between these two documents. Okay guys, I've got now both documents open here on the screen. On the left hand side, this is the documentation they have sent me with my first order of these battery cells. So this one is from May 2018 and this is the newest one from April 2019. For example, here with the dimensions of the battery cell, because now we've got different thicknesses for different state of charges of the battery. So apparently the battery is 0.5 millimeters thicker when it's fully charged. This information is totally missing in the documentation I had. See, in the old documentation, the battery, the typical capacity of the battery was mentioned with 285 ampere hours at 1C discharge. Now in the new documentation, the typical capacity is measured 280 ampere hours at 0.5C. And here as well, the minimum capacity is 280 amps at 0.5C, not at 1C anymore. Alright, here in section number 6, the main performance, there's the main difference between these two documents. So in the old documentation it said cycle life 3500 cycles after standard charging and 30 minutes rest, discharge to 2.5, cutoff with a current of 1C at 25 degrees Celsius, and then start the next cycle, blah blah blah, whatever, and then you measure this until you've got 80% of capacity left, and then you reach about 3500 cycles. Now in the new documentation they have split this up in without fixture and with fixture. Fixture means compression. So this is exactly what people were talking about, and I had no idea what they are talking about, because I didn't have this documentation. Without the compression of the cells, you only get 2,500 cycles out of these battery cells until you reach 80%, apparently. With the compression, you get 3,500 cycles, as it was before in the old documentation. So this is quite a difference, right? And apparently you have to compress them with 300 kilogram force. And I didn't know this unit. I looked it all up, and this is a very old unit which is not being used very often anymore. And you can find online calculators for that. So 300 kilogram force is 2,940 Newton. This is the pressure on the battery cell. And even then, you would have no idea how to do this and what this pressure number means. Okay, handling of cells, there's nothing different. And here you can see the C rate curve for discharging. And also you can see the minus 20-degree discharge curve has changed a lot. So the voltage obviously is now completely different than it was before. And I'm not sure if I read this correctly, but this looks like a little bit different chemistry of the battery to me, because the voltage now has a totally different run as it was before. So they may have changed some chemistry stuff, filled up these boxes with different goop. I don't know exactly, but this looks very different to me, and also the discharge parameters have changed quite a lot, so I'm not sure if this is just to cover their asses in terms of warranty claims, or if there was a change in chemistry. I don't know, I can only speculate here, but it looks very different to me. And then the most important stuff is, this is the old cycle performance curve here. When we are hitting 80% state of health of the battery, so this is the remaining capacity of the battery, this was here at about 3,500 to 3,750 cycles. 80%, this was the cutoff for these cells. Well, and then if we have a look at the new documentation here on the right hand side, we now have two discharge curves. One is again without fixture, without compression, like bare cells just sitting in a box. And the bottom one is the one with fixture. When you apply these 2,940 Newton as a pressure, the curve looks quite different. This is without compression. You're getting 80% at about 2,500 cycles, not at 3,750 cycles anymore. So I don't know why this change was. Maybe they just figured out the batteries are not that good what they initially anticipated. And down here is the fixture cycle. This is with compression, 300 kilogram force, and we are hitting the 80% at about 4,000 cycles. So this is quite a difference now, 2,500 to 4,000 cycles. And very interesting to see with these two curves, without compression and with compression, is the linearity of this curve. Look at this one. This is almost a straight curve up here. Well, here with this cell, you can see the degradation goes down fairly steep, but then flattens out at about 90-95% and goes all the way down to 4,000 cycles when you hit the 80% state of health of the battery. Well, this new documentation is now on my website as well as here linked under all my videos. So don't use the old documentation anymore, because this is obviously updated now. So please only use the new specification sheet with the updated information about the compressing cycle life of these battery cells. Well guys, and then I started reading in the do-it-yourself solar forum and found a lot of threads about compressing, not compressing battery cells. And people are discussing the technical details of all that. And yesterday I sat in front of my computer for over 2 hours and read this thread in fully. It's a 24-page long thread, at least at this point of time. And people discussing all kind of different setups for their compression, build. Some people use thick plywood at the end of the cells and compress this with threaded rods. Some people are using springs at the ends, which keeps the cell compressed. But still, there's a lot of discussions and a lot of speculations on there. Well, I don't want to show you anything of this thread here, because there are private pictures in there, and I don't want to publish them here on the channel without permissions of them. So I'll link this thread down below if you want to read through it. It's fairly interesting if you're interested in this compression discussion. And one of the guys over there obviously speaks Chinese, and he actually rang the company EV in China. This is the manufacturer of these battery cells, and talked to some of the engineers, of the developer engineers, of the designers over there, and asked them some questions. So basically what they are doing, they've got an electronic controlled press and compressed the batteries in a perfect manner. Regardless of temperature, regardless of state of charge, you always have this 300 kilogram force at the battery. So they obviously can maximize the efficiency and maximize the capacity of these battery cells, putting on this force. And the engineer over there basically said any compression on the cell is better than no compression. It prolongs the cycle life of this battery cell. And it's also very important to apply this pressure uniform to the battery cell. So if your plywood or metal is too thin and you have threaded rods at the end, it basically bends, and then you're putting more pressure on the outside of the corners of the battery cell and not on the whole area. And I want to show you this one picture here of the forum, which describes the cycle life in comparison to the applied pressure. And this is in PSI now. Well, you know PSI from inflating your car tires. And here at 0 psi, so this is without compression at all, you're getting about 2000 cycles out of this battery cell to reach the 80% threshold. And if you apply just a bit of pressure, you already get 3000 cycles out of your battery cell. And apparently the sweet spot of this pressure is about 12 psi. Everything afterwards goes a little bit down again, so it's not an advantage to apply too much pressure. And everything over 17 psi is actually bad for the whole structure of the battery cell. So it may crush your whole cell or deforms the structure of your aluminium case. The most interesting thing is what I read from this engineer. The designers of these battery cells are still at the beginning of this whole technology, and they still haven't figured out everything yet. So there are still unknown things why certain things are happening. So this swelling and contracting, it's not 100% clear why it is happening and how it is happening and how to maximize the usage out of these cells. So this approach was putting pressure on these battery cells is the best what we have at the moment. And at the moment it is a bit unclear when you have to apply these 12 psi of pressure onto these battery cells, because the pressure you have to apply is dependent on the state of charge of the battery cells. So the lower the state of charge is, the less pressure the battery needs. And this is when the idea came up using these springs, because they can adjust the pressure accordingly to whatever pressure comes from the battery cells. So if you apply these 12 psi to a half charged battery only and then you charge it to full, the pressure could be too much and crushes your cells. And if you apply this 12 psi to a fully charged battery and you discharge your battery, you may have no compression at all. So it's very difficult to find this sweet spot where you have the right compression for the right state of charge. And you basically would need one of these software-controlled hydraulic presses they are using to maximize your battery life. And guys, you can already see where this leads. This goes far, far, far away from any do-it-yourself environment now. This is all research and science, and it's as I said before, it's not really clear why things happen in these batteries and how to optimize all this at the moment. There is a lot of speculation happening and people are not sure how to apply the correct pressure to these battery cells. And some people in this forum just saying, well, 99.9% of the people buying these battery cells, they connect them, they hook them up to their solar panels and to their inverter, and they just use them without compression as they are. So in theory, if you charge your battery to 100% and then discharge to 0% every single day, the battery would last almost 7 years until it reaches 80% of capacity. If you don't compress your cells, so 7 years lifetime out of this battery. If you compress them, you get about 2.5 years more life out of the battery until you reach this 80% threshold. And 80% state of health is not the end of the battery. You still got 80% of the battery capacity. And guys, really, in 7 years' time, we are not using this kind of battery technology anymore. Really. Battery technology in general will develop so fast over the next couple of months and years. We won't have lithium iron phosphate batteries anymore in 2027. I doubt it completely. So what are we doing? Are we compressing these cells, or are we living without compressing and just hook them up and use them as they are? I'm a little bit undecided. Of course you want to maximize the usage of your battery cells and want to maximize the cycle life. Well, of course you invested a lot of money in these battery cells. You want them to last as long as possible. But then on the other hand, it's very unclear how to apply this correct pressure, not to overpressure the cells when they are fully charged and not to underpressure, because then it wouldn't make any effect at all. And I'm just switching back to the other camera again. I just want to show you something with my battery cells here. Okay, I'm just putting a torch here under this DIN rail, which is absolutely magically straight. And we put this on the flat side of the battery here. And you can see where the actual light shines through here, which is right in the middle of the cell, not at the ends. And well, you can see over here what happens there. See, it's a bit wobbly. And you probably, now you can't see that, but you can feel it. You can feel the jelly roll inside around the anode. This is the positive terminal here. And this pops out already a little bit. This battery I have cycled about two times now. And you can already feel this anode poking out a little bit here on the side. And you've got like a dent here in the middle, and then you've got the cathode on this side, but this one doesn't stick out. So the battery is fairly flat here on this side, but when we go all the way through, you can see the anode is sticking out already. 2 cycles. And I just have another battery cell here, just a random one from the Carlotta delivery. And we can have a look here as well. Just turn this around. I've never cycled this one, never touched it, never done anything with this battery cell. And you can see here, it's exactly the same. We've got this wobbly anode area. We've got this gap in the middle, and then it's almost flush here at the end where the cathode sits. And again, you can feel the jelly roll inside. It's a round-shaped swelling here in this area of the battery cell. And when they are expanding, they are not doing this on the outside. They are doing this here, right in the middle of the battery cell. So this gap, you can see the light shining through. This gap won't be there anymore. This is the 0.5 millimeter they are talking about in the spreadsheet, which will swell when the battery is fully charged. We've got another battery cell here, which is almost fully charged, and you can see there's no gap in between. So you still can see the jelly roll at the positive terminal, at the anode, but in the middle there's no gap. See, it's flush. And this is the expansion and contraction again you have in these battery cells. They basically breathe. Someone in the forum said they are breathing. You know, so they're expanding, contracting again. Well, the designers and engineers say if you compress your cells, you get more cycles out of it. Well, that's fine. But then on the other hand, you stop someone from breathing. So, guys, yeah, that's what I could find out in the last 2 days or something about compressing or not compressing battery cells. There's heaps more of information out there, of course, especially in this do-it-yourself solar forum. There are at least 5 different threads where this topic is being discussed. And to be honest, I don't know. I don't know where to go from here, if I should compress them and maximize the battery life to 10 years, or if I should just leave it like it is and say, look, in 7 years' time, they will be obsolete. There will be other solid-state batteries, whatever comes out in the future, and we will replace these batteries anyway with better technology, more capacity. Who knows? Who knows? It's a very difficult decision. I mean, yes, you can compress them, but if you do it wrong, it actually harms the batteries. You need to be very, very precise what you are doing, and there's no kit available what you can buy and put this on your batteries and they are perfectly compressed. You have to build something yourself, and even these guys in the do-it-yourself solar forums, they come up with some ideas, but there's no prototype, or they're not sure if it works and if it's optimal over a long period of time. Okay guys, I felt I needed to do this video here and give you more information about compressing or not compressing. So obviously these EV-LF280 battery cells need compressing if you want the 3,500 cycles out of the battery. And again, for your understanding, if you cycle these battery cells only with 80% or 50%, the cycle life will be a lot longer. So you basically get 10 years out of these battery cells anyway with ease if you don't charge them to 100% and discharge them to 0% every single day. Nobody's doing that. I mean, this is insane. This would be a total misdesign of your system. If you have to do this to run your application, there's a problem with the design of your battery. So I'm 70% leaning to not compress the battery cells and leave them as them is, put the bus bars in, done. I will probably just charge them up to 80% anyway, between 80 and 30%. This would be the range I would use them. If I need more capacity, I just buy more battery cells. You know, there will be a second box. All right, I think this is a very interesting and very controversial topic. And as you can see, the forums are full of that and people are discussing it for a while now. Leave your comments down below. Maybe we get even more than 160 comments here on this video. I don't know. I'm undecided. Even knowing now the batteries will live longer with compression, I'm still undecided. Okay guys, as always, thank you so much for all your support here. Thank you again for all your comments on this last video and all the comments you put under this video. You are amazing. Great work, and thank you again for everything you are doing here on the channel. Thank you so much. Well, it's already late. I think we shall see us again in the next video, coming out very soon. Thanks again guys. See you. Bye bye.